So we had already talked about verse 5, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And we talked about that just being the sense of emptiness, emptying of ourselves, just the mind of Christ, that that we not only think of we think of ourselves, but we also think of others first and foremost. Just this attitude of humility and emptiness, that we can be filled by His Spirit, and that emptiness really gives us a clear picture, a biblical picture, a true picture of who we are apart from Christ. Just in our sinful state, can't save ourselves. We can't do anything good. We can do nothing apart from Christ, as John 15 says. And so we move to this second beatitude, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. And it says, blessed are the poor in spirit who mourn, blessed are the people who feel keenly their inadequacies and their guilt and their failures and their helplessness and their unworthiness and their emptiness, who don't try to hide these things under a cloak of self-sufficiency, but who are honest about them and grieved and driven to the grace of God. So bottom line, what John Piper is trying to communicate, and I think what Jesus was trying to communicate, is that emptiness that we know, that we have nothing really to offer, that we are broken, that we mourn over that brokenness, that we are sad and because we are sinful and broken, and that we go to the right place with that brokenness, with that mourning, and that is to God's grace, to the Son, because that is where and only where we will find comfort. So the question is, are you broken over your sin? And then are you running to Jesus for that brokenness? Lots of people feel the weight of their sin, but they run to other things to find help with dealing with that guilt and shame. We as believers should be running to Christ with all of that brokenness. Next, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And the question I posed was, when do the meek inherit the earth? When do Christians inherit the earth? And that will be at the second coming of Christ. And so, here's what meek people do. We wait. We wait on the coming of Christ. We don't worry about things, which is a timely truth right now in the midst of this corona pandemic. We try to wait patiently on the return of Christ, so we don't fret, we don't worry. And so in the waiting, that's not passive. We want to trust God. We want to commit our way to Him, and we don't want to fret. And we want to be slow to speak and slow to anger. So while we're waiting, we're active in one sense. We are trusting Him. We are committing our way to Him. Like right now, we don't know what's about to happen with this coronavirus stuff. But we're committing our way to Him, and we're not going to fret about it. And meek people also, because they're waiting on Christ, they don't feel the need to be the first to speak and to speak out every time and to fight against those who don't see eye to eye with us. And we're slow to get angry. We're listen, take in the information, process it for the glory of God. Next, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Okay, so if we know we're empty and we're mourning that emptiness, that brokenness, and we're being meek, we're waiting patiently for the return of Christ, we are hungering and thirsting for righteousness. Righteousness only comes through Jesus Christ for us. Remember, Paul writes that God made Him who knew no sin to be sin for us, so that in Him we might become the righteousness of God. So only through Christ can we be righteous. So when we hunger and thirst for righteousness, we're really hungering and thirsting after Jesus Himself. This is a longing to see Christ presently and coming in the future in our lives. And so if we know who we are and the brokenness and the emptiness we have, and we mourn over that, we are broken over our sin and our inability to do good apart from Christ, and we run to Christ to be filled. We're waiting patiently for Him to return to make things right. This all creates in us a longing for Jesus. Okay, just like I said, Jesus equals righteousness, and so we are longing to see Christ return.